Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Kitab Sharh Ajaib al-Qalb, The Marvels of the Heart. This is book 21 of Ihya Ulum al-Din, The Revival of the Religious Sciences, translated by Walter James Skilly, with a foreword by T.J. Winter, Abdul Hakim Murad. We have read in the first session T.J. Winter's foreword, and we have read as much as we could from the translator's biographical sketch, if you will, but it's quite lengthy and it was still important. We could not finish in the second session. We'll try in this session, the third one, to cover as much as possible of the rest of the biographical sketch. It's not, strictly speaking, biographical anymore now, because he's going to delve into the sketch of Ghazali's psychology as the nature of the soul, the soul's knowledge and its acquisition, the soul's experience, etc. So that's not really biography per se, of course not. The very last part that we have read, there is a very beautiful sentence that Imam Al-Ghazali, in the translator, said that Imam Al-Ghazali's whole moral philosophy was a synthesis and a practical expression of the golden mean. He took the rigid framework of the scholastic theologian and clothed it with the warm personal faith of the mystic. This is really the beautiful sentence: warm personal faith of the mystic. Because the problem is when theology and jurisprudence really, when they become very dry, very technical, this is when people cannot relate anymore to the affairs of the heart, because the heart is not there anymore. In any classical book of jurisprudence, any classical book of jurisprudence is devoid of the affairs of the heart, of spirituality. It begins with division of the water. Okay, that's a typical case, and ablution and wudu and ghusl. Spirituality is not there. Then Imam Ghazali tried to reintroduce spirituality, and I say reintroduce because it's a revival of the Islamic sciences. And this is why the scholar, the leader, as in the very last paragraph in the previous reading, there is a need for spiritual leaders, and this is true. A sketch of Ghazali's psychology, introduction. The fact that Ghazali used the term heart instead of soul in the title of this book is an indication of the primary position this word had in the vocabulary of Muslim religious teachers. And also in that of the philosophers. The term was used in Islam for the seat of intellectual and emotional life, even as it had already been used by Judaism and Christianity. And there's a reference, of course, to the Greeks and the Romans, where the heart took the place of the liver as the seat of life, soul, intellect, and emotion. Aristotle gave the heart the place of honor as the seat of the noblest emotions. Let me say, since Judaism and Christianity are mentioned here, first of all, that the construct, and I would emphasize this, the construct, the Judeo Christian construct, is rather late construct. And really, there are serious differences between Judaism and Christianity in terms of theology. Of course, they're not on the same page. Absolutely not. And the fact that in Christianity, the law, which is really very, which occupies a very, important place in Judaism, the law has been practically abolished in Christianity. So again, the construct Judeo-Christian does not really explain, except that for all political reasons today it could be used and in Judaism, of course, there is no recognition of there's no belief in Jesus Christ, and I'm not referring to the a Christian theology per se. There's like in Islam, there is a recognition, there is belief in that Jesus Christ, peace upon him, was a prophet of God, and there is a miraculous birth. In fact, many details where the Islam and Christianity also differ. Now, the point is the relationship between Islam and Judaism and Christianity is like a Venn diagram. There is that which is common, but there are also serious differences. And this is important to remember. And where there are differences, of course, from Islamic perspective, it is really if it's really something that the Quran mentioned, then obviously 100% the theological position is that the Quran has the upper hand epistemologically, theologically. The next paragraph, he says that though Al-Ghazali uses the term secrets of the heart as a synonym for its marvels, ajaib al-qalb, it apparently does not connote any special mystical signification. Of course, unlike the use of the word secret in Christian theology, simply that there are, like if I give an example from the book of fasting, really it's these secrets, the asrar, they're not secrets at all, except that they might not be apparent, and simply he highlights these secrets, simply moving beyond the common notion of fasting, which is understood by practically everyone, which is abstinence from food, drink, and intimate relationship between spouses, between dawn and sunset. The next level is fasting of the limbs, of the external organs. Say, for example, the eye would abstain from looking at that which is prohibited. The tongue would abstain from all the deficits, such as backbiting and lying and false witnessing. And the highest level is really where the heart abstains from being preoccupied with anything but God. So yes, as the translator said, it is not they are not secrets per se. Ghazali limits the discussion of the subject largely to the field of knowledge of proper conduct, علم المعاملة. His aim is ethical, and although he does sometimes inevitably deal with the questions of metaphysics, it is nevertheless with ethics that he is primarily concerned. He would not go as far as Zeno and reduce all virtues to practical wisdom. Phronos, yet that was, for him, the important way of achieving his desired end, the good life. If we are speaking about for him, for Al-Ghazali, of course, there's talk about Hayat Tayyiba, that's really Quranic. He agreed with Aristotle that understanding included both wisdom and practical sense, and that he stressed, but what he stressed was the latter, which they both held to be practical ability and a rational direction in the choice of things good and avoidance of things which are evil for man. This practical end was kept ever in view by Ghazali as the logical outcome of man's knowledge and experience. The nature of the soul, in order to understand clearly Ghazali's concept of the nature of the heart or soul, it is necessary to discuss the terms that are applied to it. They are the heart, qalb, spirit, ruh, soul, nafs, and intelligence, aql. Maybe reason. Each of these terms has two meanings, but the second meaning of each term is the same as the second meaning of each of the other three terms. The term heart, qalb, means the heart of the flesh of the body of a man or animal, whether living or dead, but it also means that subtle, tenuous substance, spiritual in nature, which is the knowing and perceiving essence of man. There's something, or there's some connection between the physical heart and the spiritual heart, but practical wisdom and prophetic precedent do not demand nor warrant the explanation of this relationship. Spirit, ruh, means that refined material substance which is produced by the blood in the left cavity of the heart, and which rises up to the brain and passes to all parts of the body through the blood vessels, carrying the animal powers of life and sense perception. This resembles Aristotle's theory of pneuma as a sentient organism of a subtle nature spread through the body and acting as the universal medium of sensation. Spirit also means the above mentioned subtle spiritual substance, which is the second meaning of heart. The third term is soul, nafs. This may mean the life-giving soul whose seat is in the heart. Giorgiani defines nafs as that refined vaporous substance, jawhar, which bears the powers of life, sense perception, and voluntary motion. End quote. And says that Al-Hakim, meaning Ibn Sina, called it the animal spirit, الروح الحيوانية. Ghazali and other Sufi writers commonly bring the word nafs, which is the ordinary Arabic equivalent for the uh, psyche of Greek philosophy, down to the appetitive soul, epithemia, in which are united man's blameworthy qualities. Here he says this is the psyche of Pauline theology and the nephesh in Hebrew. The etymology, nafs and nephesh, of course. It is not clear from this book of the Ihya, nor from the here he mentions معارج القدس في مدارج معرفة النفس or الرسالة الدنية or كيمياء السعادة, whether or not Ghazali held that the soul in this sense was material or immaterial in its nature. Some hints of a material soul are found, for example in كيمياء السعادة, where he speaks of the nafs as the vehicle, مركب of the heart. That's not necessarily, I never understood it personally, as a physical thing because of the metaphor of the مركب, the vehicle, the carrier, the wagon. A term usually applied to the body. And again, in the Risala Duniya, where he says that Sufis call the animal spirit الروح الحيواني, a nafs. The clearest hint is perhaps that in Mizan al-Amal, where he speaks of the two meanings of the soul as the animal soul, النفس الحيوانية, and the human soul, النفس الإنسانية. It is clear that there is in Islam the concept of material nafs. But Ghazali does not stress the nature of this appetitive soul as regards its materiality or immateriality, but rather as regards this will be extremely problematic if one has to adopt that it is material. But rather as regards its characteristic of uniting the blameworthy qualities of man. These blameworthy qualities are the animal powers in man that are opposed to his rational powers. It is thus like Plato's irrational soul made up of anger, of course, غضب, and appearance. Made up of anger and appetence, the shahwa. The second meaning of nafs is that subtle spiritual substance, which is the real essence of man. The fourth term is intelligence or reason. Here he mentions both intelligence and reason. عقل. This word is commonly used to translate the Greek nous. عقل is applied to man's knowledge of the true nature of things. Of course, the عقل in the Quran is always a verb, not the exact word. يعقلون, for example. So the noun itself is not mentioned as such in the Quran. Aql is applied to man's knowledge of the true nature of things and also to his power to perceive and know. This latter meaning is that same subtle spiritual substance of which Aristotle said reason more than anything else is man. It is this second meaning, common to all four terms, of which Al-Ghazali writes in the volume before us. Thus, his concept of heart or soul may be defined as the subtle, tenuous substance, spiritual in nature, which is the perceiving and knowing essence of man, and in reality is man. His seat is the physical heart. It is immaterial and immortal. It is created directly by God, capable of knowing Him, of knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and is morally responsible to Him. There is, of course, there is discussion, of course, in Arabic about al-insan and what defines really al-insan. A very simplistic approach is usually we have that definition as al-insan, حيوان ناطق, that speaking, that she is defined by speech, in addition to being an animal, which I have always found problematic. Not because of speech, but because of the word حيوان. And there is that also simplistic interpretation, or basically finding the or relating the etymology of the word insan to nisyan, to forgetfulness, while I do believe that it is al-insan is from al-uns, anisa. Just simply think about the order of the letters rather than nasiya, anisa, فهو insan. Like in the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, Prophet Moses, on his way back from Midian, when he saw a fire at a distance, the burning bush story. And I'm referring to the Quranic story. He said, Inni anastu nara. This inas, isti'nas bin nar, this is really finding comfort in the scene of the fire. Of course, not the fire itself. He found comfort in the idea that there must have been human beings who ignited this fire. So if you are a source of comfort, and I'm not talking about the scientific, interpretation that covers everyone, whether a good person or a bad person. I'm referring really only to that which is, if he or she fulfills the role expected of the human being, then there is ons. Otherwise, no. And just think about soldiers who are committing the genocide. How could there be ons and like finding comfort in their scene? They have lost, and they have so scientifically they are Homo sapiens, okay, but if you talk about spirituality, they have removed themselves through their own action. But that's not Al-Ghazali. Ghazali, following Ibn Sina and other Arab philosophers, maybe of course, to say it is Islamic philosophy, that's not exactly accurate. To say that it is Arab, to say they are Arab philosophers, that's also not accurate, because Ibn Sina was not really an Arab. Al-Farabi was not an Arab, in fact. Ibn Khaldun says in his Muqaddimah that most of the scientists and most of the sciences were Ajam, were non-Arab. So most of the scientists and most of the ulama, most of the scholars In most sciences, we're non-Arab, we're Ajam. And so if we say in most of the sciences, then we are left with some sciences. In these, in few sciences, all of them were Ajam. Maybe this was where he was accused of Shawbi, but many were not Arabs. Even Lisan al-Arab, the Arabic lexicon of Ibn Mandur. Many scholars, including in Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Bukhari from Bukhara and Muslim was Nisaburi from Nishapur. Okay. So they conceived of the human soul as being between the lower realm of the animal and the higher realm of the divine, and as partaking of the characteristics of each of these realms. In the elaboration of their doctrine of the soul, they combine the ideas of Plato and Aristotle and join to them additional ideas from Neoplatonic sources. Perhaps the most systematic statement of the resulting doctrine of the soul is that given by Ibn Sina, which may be summarized in the following scheme, as adapted from Hastings' Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics. The soul is divided into three: vegetative, animal, and human, rational soul. For Ghazali, of course, God is the creator of all that man is and does, and he follows Aristotle in holding that the heart is the seat of the rational soul. But in spite of these differences, the Platonic division is an important part of the thinking of Ghazali. Plato's rational soul is Ghazali's soul, or heart, or intellect, depending on the illustrations he uses. The irrational soul of Plato includes the powers of appetence and anger, which for him and for Ghazali too must be held in check by the rational soul or intellect. In fact, one might think of because the idea is definitely repeated in different places in the revival of Islamic sciences, the religious sciences, Ihya Ulumuddin. And one might think of there is a certain motivational force there to keep them in check, and not only in check. And when I say not only in check, in the sense of to ultimately being minimalist in the true sense of that word, in terms of appetite. Even more clearly do we see the Aristotelian analysis in Ghazali's psychology with its vegetative, animal, and human souls. Aristotle tried to explain accurately the phenomena of psychic life, approaching it from the side of metaphysics. I think this. I hope that you will be able to read this biographical and really kind of summary of certain ideas. We cannot really discuss all of the ideas that are presented here, but we might really go back to these as we proceed in reading the marvels of the heart, inshallah, as beginning with the next session, inshallah. So this is exactly the intention, inshallah, that we'll start with the marvels of the heart. You can read the rest of the biographical sketch and all the rest about the soul's experiences on your own. Until then, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.